too strong on a three. And look out, Caitlin Clark pushes Angel Reese, and Angel Reese gets right up into Caitlin Clark. Afterwards has something to say as Clark walks away. We know there are always increased eyeballs, energy, and attention around the matchups between...
Angel Reese tries to fight Caitlin Clark after flagrant foul. So let me set the scene for you because this one has been building for a long time. And if you have been paying any kind of attention to women's basketball over the last year and a half, you already know that this wasn't just a basketball game. This was a statement. This was a reckoning. This was the moment that everyone who had been talking all that noise finally had to sit down and face what they had been asking for. This wasn't random. This wasn't a fluke. This was inevitable. And the person who made it inevitable wasn't Caitlin Clark. It was Angel Reese. Because Angel Reese and her entire camp decided months before this game that the best strategy against one of the most talented players in the history of women's basketball was to get physical, get in her head, send a message, and make Clark feel small. And I mean, they really committed to the bit. They really woke up every single morning and chose that strategy like it was going to work, like Caitlin Clark was going to fold, like the same person who carried Iowa to 2 straight national championship games, who broke the all-time NCAA scoring record, who turned the WNBA into a mainstream conversation, was suddenly going to look at Angel Reese mugging for the camera and decide today is not my day. Let's just say that plan didn't exactly go the way they drew it up. And what happened next was one of the most jaw-dropping, most talked about, most rewatched sequences in WNBA history. So strap in because we are going through all of it. You have to understand who Angel Reese is and what she represents in this rivalry, because this isn't just some random matchup. This is the continuation of one of the most loaded storylines in women's sports right now. Reese came into the league loud. She came in with a brand, with an attitude, with a chip on her shoulder the size of a building. And in a lot of ways, that energy was electric and people loved her for it early on. She had the LSU national championship. She had the deals. She had the magazine covers. She had an entire marketing machine built around the idea that Angel Reese was the culture and Caitlin Clark was the opponent. And that framing was working for a while. It was working right up until the moment you actually had to play basketball games and the scoreboard started telling a different story. Because the numbers don't care about your brand. The numbers don't care about who your PR team tells the world you are. The numbers just sit there and they accumulate and eventually they become undeniable. And Angel Reese knows this. And the entire basketball watching world knows that Angel Reese knows this. And that is the kindling that has been sitting underneath this entire rivalry for months waiting for someone to light it. And on this night, Angel Reese decided to be the one holding the match, except she didn't account for the fact that Caitlin Clark brought a flamethrower. The week leading up to this game was already spicy, and I mean genuinely spicy, not manufactured spicy, because there had been a back and forth in the media cycle about physicality, about how Reese and the Sky played Clark, about flagrant fouls, about whether the league was protecting its star player, and Reese had been very vocal, very public, very pointed in saying she doesn't do anything dirty. She plays hard. She plays physical. This is basketball. If Clark can't handle the contact, then maybe she should toughen up. And look, I am not going to sit here and pretend that Caitlin Clark is some fragile flower because she is absolutely not. But there is a difference between playing physical and playing with the intention of intimidation. And everyone who watches this game with honest eyes knows the difference, even if they don't want to say it out loud. Reese had made it very clear in multiple interviews and multiple social media moments that her approach to this game was going to be exactly what it had always been, which is make Clark uncomfortable, make Clark earn every single thing. I'm in hope that the mental pressure eventually breaks something. That was the plan. That was the stated and unstated approach going into this game. And I have to give Angel Reese credit for one thing and one thing only, which is that she is not afraid to put her money where her mouth is and show up and actually try to execute the plan even when the plan is clearly not working. Right from the opening tip, it was obvious that the energy was different. The crowd was locked in, both benches were hot, and Clark was moving with a purpose that told you she had been thinking about this game for a minute. First possession of the game, she comes off the screen, catches it at the top of the key, one dribble, pull up, splash, nothing but net, and she doesn't say a word, doesn't look at anybody, just turns and gets back on defense. And that right there told you everything you needed to know about her headspace going into this game. Because when Clark is feeling herself, she lets the game do the talking, and she was absolutely feeling herself from the very first possession. The Sky tried to throw a zone at her early, and Clark just carved it up. Found the gaps, made the extra passes, hit the cutters, kept the offense moving. This wasn't somebody who was rattled. This was somebody who had seen every version of this and had an answer for all of it. And the crowd is going crazy already, and we are maybe 4 minutes into the first quarter, and the Sky bench already looks like they are recalculating some things. And then it started. The physicality that everyone had been anticipating started revealing itself. The first few bumps and body checks were within the game. One, they were hard, but they were basketball. Clark was taking contact and fighting through it and hitting her shots anyway, but you could feel something building underneath the surface. Some energy that was looking for a release, and Angel Reese in particular was playing with this barely contained aggression that was not entirely about winning the basketball game and more about making a point. And Clark kept doing Clark things. Mid-range pull-up, catch and shoot from the corner, dribble handoff that found an open cutter for an easy layup. Assist. Another assist. The Fever were moving the ball and the Sky were getting more and more desperate. And that is when the desperation started leaking into the physicality, and that is when this game changed. Because midway through the second quarter, Caitlin Clark drives baseline, beats her defender, eye goes up strong, and gets absolutely rocked on the way to the basket. Not a basketball play rocked. Not even a questionable basketball play rocked. Just genuinely illegal, flagrant, look what I'm doing rocked. The whistle goes, flagrant foul, and the entire arena goes from basketball noise to something else entirely. That loud, uncomfortable something just happened silence that only lasts for about 2 seconds before it transforms into complete chaos. And Clark is on the floor, and the trainers are checking on her. And the Sky bench is doing that thing where they're all kind of looking at each other trying to calculate how bad this is. And Reese is standing there with this look on her face that I can only describe as someone who knew exactly what they did and is now watching the consequences materialize in real time. Clark gets up. And Clark is fine. And then it got worse, because here's the thing about flagrant fouls and about this one in particular. The aftermath is always where the real story is, because Angel Reese in the immediate seconds after that call, instead of backing up, instead of going to her bench, instead of doing the thing where you at least pretend you didn't mean it, she got closer. She stepped toward Clark, and Clark stepped toward her. And for about 4 of the most electric seconds in recent WNBA history, it genuinely looked like this was going to go somewhere that basketball games are not supposed to go. The officials stepped in immediately, both benches came forward. And the crowd was completely unhinged, and not in a bad energy way, but in that way where something real is happening in front of you, and everyone in the building knows it, and no one can look away. It took a full minute to sort everything out. Reese got a technical on top of the flagrant. She is now watching from a very thin margin of still being in this game, and Clark walks to the free throw line, and you can see it on her face. That look, that specific look that Clark gets when she has decided that the conversation is over and the score is going to do the talking now. And I am telling you, when Caitlin Clark gets that look, it is over for whoever is on the other side of it. The free throws go in, obviously, and then the game resumed. And what happened next was nothing short of a masterclass in what it looks like when a generational talent decides to stop being nice about it. Because Clark from that moment forward was absolutely merciless. Not angry, not sloppy, just surgical. Like she had entered a different operating mode entirely, and the operating mode was, I am going to make every single possession feel like a consequence, and I am going to do it with a straight face. Next possession down the court, Clark catches it at the top with the defender draped all over her, and she just rises up and drains a contested 3, like the defender was not even there. The arena is shaking. Next possession, she threads a behind-the-back pass through 2 defenders to find a cutting teammate for an easy 2. I mean, she is in full God mode now, and there is nothing the Sky can do about it because you cannot guard her when she is like this. You cannot crowd her because she will pass through the crowd. You cannot give her space because she will shoot over the space. You cannot foul her because she will make the free throws and then come right back and do it again. There is no defensive setting that stops Caitlin Clark when Caitlin Clark has decided she is going to end you. She was toying with her food out there, operating on a different clock entirely. and every single move was measured and intentional, and every single one of them went in. And if those 2 plays after the flagrant could only speak words, I am pretty sure they would say, "I told you so." I mean, this is what happens when you choose violence unprovoked and the person you aimed it at has a 38-point night as a response. And I want to dwell on that stretch between the flagrant and halftime for a second, because I think it illustrates something important about what separates truly elite players from everyone else. And it is not athleticism, and it is not even skill at the most technical level. It is the ability to use adversity as fuel without letting it become chaos, because a lesser player in that situation, after taking that flagrant foul and getting into that near confrontation and having the crowd and the cameras and the entire basketball world watching and waiting, a lesser player either tightens up from the pressure or goes too aggressive and starts forcing things. Clark did neither. She played her game. She played her game better than she had been playing it before the foul because now she had something extra powering it, and that extra thing was quiet, controlled, and devastating. And the crowd felt it. The sky bench felt it. You could see it on every face in that building that something had shifted, and the shift was not going in the direction Angel Reese had planned for when she stepped into Caitlin Clark's personal space 30 seconds after that flagrant. By the time we got to the fourth quarter, the game was already decided in the way that matters, which is the psychological game was completely won. Clark hit a 3 from logo range late in the fourth that was so deep and so unnecessary and so perfectly timed that even the people who don't particularly like Caitlin Clark had to take a second and appreciate it. Why? Because it was not a desperation shot. It was not a heat check. It was a statement. The basketball equivalent of signing your name at the bottom of a letter you have already written and mailing it to the person who tried to mess with you. And then she got back on defense, and the Fever held the lead, and the buzzer sounded, and the cameras found Angel Reese's face. And that face told a story that no quote or interview or social media post was ever going to tell more honestly, because the game had just said the truth that all the pre-game narrative could not contain. So let's talk about what Caitlin Clark actually put on the box score, because the numbers are the final word in this conversation, and I need you to see them laid out because they are the receipts, and the receipts do not lie. Clark finished the game with 38 points on 13 of 22 shooting from the field. She shot 6 of 12 from three-point range. She had 9 assists. She had 5 rebounds. She played 36 minutes. She converted her flagrant foul free throws without blinking. She made every consequential shot in the fourth quarter when the game was being decided. And she did all of this against a team that came into this game with the explicit intention of making her as uncomfortable as possible, of getting physical, of proving to the league and the public that Caitlin Clark could be rattled and stopped if you were willing to be physical enough. 38 points, 9 assists, 59% from the field. These are the numbers that exist regardless of what anyone says in any interview or posts in any caption or implies in any media appearance. And now let me tell you about Angel Reese's night, because the numbers have a story to tell there too, and it is a very different story. Reese finished with 8 points and 7 rebounds. She shot 3 of 11 from the field. She had 4 fouls, including the flagrant and the technical. She finished a -19 in plus-minus, which is not a typo. -19. In a game where she had positioned herself as the person who was going to make Caitlin Clark uncomfortable and send a message to the league about what real physicality looks like. And then after the game, because you knew this was coming, Reese told reporters she plays hard and physical, and she is never going to apologize for the way she plays, and that the league needs to protect all players, not just the ones who get the most marketing attention. I mean, after going 3 for 11, after the flagrant, and after the technical, after the -19, after Caitlin Clark scored 38 points and handed out 9 assists and shot nearly 60%